So my first question is going to be, what is Sensei? But I think maybe you suggested rather than explain it, you could just show us. So let's roll the clip.
Thank you. You're all invited.
So, okay, what is Sensei?
Sensei are wellness retreats. And I wanted to show you the video to dispel some popular misconceptions, thanks to White Lotus and Nine Perfect Strangers. But we're a wellness retreat company. We're founded by Larry Ellison and David Agus. And we're a luxury retreat company. I don't think there's any shame in saying that we take care of high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals. And Larry and David had recognized through the passing of their close friend Steve Jobs that high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals need a different type of care, a different type of place, different spaces than are available and accessible by the rest of us. And I don't think there's any shame in saying that. I'm a former physician and a geneticist. Before moving into luxury hospitality, I used to work in healthcare and social determinants of health. And one of the controversial things when I train my team on how to take care of the wealthy and the ultra wealthy is in recognizing that they're people, you also have to recognize that they're minorities. There's just not that many of them. They're understudied. We don't really understand what life looks like for them. I can't just give them a $25 gift card and do user research on them. It just doesn't work that way, right? So there's a
I know, worth is tried.
So there's a level of consideration that comes with that. So that's where Sensei is. I'm the Chief Science and Innovation Officer for Sensei.
So I want to talk a little bit about what makes those people different, because I think that alters how you deliver services. But what are the services you deliver? I mean, it's obviously they're beautiful locations. I've been to the Sensei Lanai. They're beautifully appointed. What makes them different, and why do they need to be different?
Yeah, so there's a couple of characteristics that we've learned in the course of developing these retreats, and it has to do with the psychographic of high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals. The first is that trust comes at a premium, that in the course of success, whether they've acquired their wealth or inherited the wealth, they just don't trust a lot of people, and trust has been really hard, kind of hard wrought for them. And so we do a lot to really carefully broker the trust for high net worth individuals so that we can ultimately deliver information about their nutrition, their lifestyle, their mindset, and their stress. So we've heard this morning from clinicians and companies that we understand that ultimately we have to change human behavior, but how are we going to do that? From our perspective, it starts with the psychology and the emotions of how you're going to connect with a person. So one of the key decisions that we had made, and I give our co-founders credit for this, is that we're an evidence-based company. We're evidence-based and data-driven because evidence and data are the lingua franca of successful people around the world, globally, regardless of what country you're from or what state you're from. Data and science speak volumes. So in our retreats, as you can see, they're beautifully appointed. There's a lot of thought that went into the architecture and design, even of the spaces. One of the stories, we keep saying this with our guests over and over. I mean, we heard this morning that yes, cardiometabolic outcomes are going to be, they are the leading killer of both men and women. Women more so because it's undiagnosed. But you wouldn't believe how many guests sit in our retreat and haven't had a blood pressure measured in over a year. And it's because they're uncomfortable sitting in a doctor's office with the blinky fluorescent lights and the tile floors. It's just not their comfort zone. That's not the type of facility that they're used to being in. But facilities like this, they will readily roll up their sleeves, let us take a lipid panel, a blood pressure. We use the Sika body composition scale. It does wonders to dispel body dysmorphia. You don't know if you're appropriate for your gender and your size and your age until you measure it, but there's just so much fear. And so what we've learned over the years is that to get past that fear, you really have to meet people where they're at, and start designing facilities and spaces that are tailored to the psychographic of the type of people that you're trying to reach.
You also said you take more of a coaching approach than just delivering the data to the patient and telling them what to do. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So having trained as a physician, it's sad but true, prescriptions don't work. I can tell you what to do, but mostly what I'm doing is just making you feel guilty for not listening to me. And this has been true for diet. Prescriptions for diets, rules don't work. This has been true for movement. I think I disagree with Ami on one point. Even if cardiometabolic outcomes are the leading killer, I think the changes we're going to see are musculoskeletal. It's going to be in how we move, and learning that the prescription for exercise, exercise 3 times a week for 60 minutes, it hasn't worked. The public health system has failed. That's not how we get people to move. We get people to move by helping them understand the relationship they have with their body and movement, and learning to move in different ways and feel joy in moving. And so it's a very different way that we reach the same outcome of just getting people to exercise. And so that's just one example. We do the same thing with diet. We do the same thing with sleep. Sleep is so poorly understood as well, but it does take a lot of time and interoception, both introspection and interoception, to understand what your body's telling you and what you need.
So it looks like a spa, but you have all this state-of-the-art technology. I asked you what the most sophisticated test you run on, or you run on your patients was, and you said it was a breathwork exercise.
Yeah, it's so unsophisticated. It's like stupid simple. So you've probably heard of breathwork, or at least seen it, or been told you should do it. And again, what you're seeing and perceiving on social media, it really does a disservice to the power of breathwork. So our guests, we want to, in being evidence-based, we want to make sure we teach them things that are going to help them live a longer, healthier life, and breathwork is proven. It's even recommended by emergency room physicians to keep patients in a hypertensive crisis out of the emergency room. Just take a deep breath. So what we want to do was teach people why this is good for them. So the way that we did that is through data. So we just clip a simple heart rate sensor on an earlobe, and we create a biofeedback experience. So you see your heart rate on the screen. As all the physicians, I know there are many of them out here, know, your heart rate is aliased by your respiratory rate. So it's something called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. So when you look at your heart rate, there's another sinusoidal wave of your respiratory rate kind of convolved with that signal. And so we take them through this exercise where they're watching their heart rate. Now you close your eyes and let your mind wander, and then suddenly these two signals kind of get out of sync, and they go up. And then we take them through a guided meditation, and then we show them what box breathing is, do some box breathing, do some guided breath work, and then suddenly the light bulb goes off. That breath work is not some woo-woo practice, it's not some rule that I have to follow. There's real data and there's real changes that are happening in my body within 4 breaths that you can see the benefits. Most of us, and many of our guests, are so disconnected from our bodies that you can't really feel what a single breath does for you. But if you see your heart rate drop a few beats, if you see your respiratory rate slow down, it's life-altering, literally life-altering. And so suddenly now we're teaching, and we're able to teach the shakers and movers of the world how to take better care of themselves, and they're able to bring this back to their families and organizations to share it with them.
So one of the other things, and I don't want to, make the high net worth individuals seem like, they're already a minority, but I don't want it to seem like an oppressed class. But you mentioned that there's actually, we talked about the loneliness epidemic across the country, and that for high net worth individuals, that's actually a greater problem for them as well. How do you go about sort of treating them for something as complex as loneliness when you're living in that kind of world?
Yeah, and we had some great conversations yesterday with Jim and Josh. I think Worth is really kind of hitting on an important need for this group of people. So loneliness is an epidemic. We know that. But in the kind of pursuit, acquisition, inheritance of wealth, it's lonelier at the top. Statistically, high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals have fewer social relationships and vulnerable social relationships than the rest of us. There's just fewer people that they open up to. Our retreats, again, based off Larry David's vision, the story with Steve Jobs, they were always very hyper-personalized. And so we have a suite of one-on-one services where we're able to spend a lot of time, not more than the 15 minutes that they're searching for, but a lot of time with each guest focusing on a biomarker or data point. To address interpersonal well-being, this is the next frontier where we're really starting to think about groups and how do we get groups of people together and really work on some of the hard stuff. How do you get groups of people, sometimes strangers, to talk to each other and be vulnerable and share what they're going through? And one of the prerequisites for getting a group of people together and being emotionally vulnerable is you kind of have to have some basis of similarity. And so that's what our retreats allow. We've started hosting groups. We host executive retreats. We've had some family offices come and stay with us. But I think we've barely scratched the surface in the type of good that we can do for these type of communities. So I'm actually looking forward to maybe some of the collaborations that have been sparked at this event, pursuing those and seeing what we can do together.
So on the flip side, telehealth has been a big topic here, delivering services remotely. I mean, it seems like almost antithetical to the Sensei approach, but are there any remote solutions or telehealth solutions you've been exploring?
Yeah, thanks for asking. This is what I got excited about last night. Our customers started asking for it. After they do the Sika body composition, they spent 60 minutes with our nutritionist, not just understanding the data, but building a relationship. And the same thing with the mindset, the breathwork biomarkers, the same thing with exercise physiology. They were clamoring, how do we keep this going? How do we continue this lifestyle change on top of the relationship and the trust that we've built with you? So we kind of stepped into this virtual care model and starting to deliver virtual coaching sessions and guide sessions remotely to our guests in between their stays at our retreats. But again, some of the synergies from this event is, like, in the event business, it's kind of operationally unsustainable, for us to set up a call center effectively to field all these calls. But maybe there's some opportunity, some shared resources amongst the community here where we can do that at scale. But it's an absolute need. I think people of all socioeconomic levels are lonelier, but they're looking for experiences that are tailored to them, their backgrounds, their needs, their personalities. And so I think there's an opportunity to craft something new in the market there.
Well, thanks so much. I've been to the Sensei Lanai. There's an article up on worth.com if you want to read more about it. Check it out. Maybe we'll re-promote that after this event. But thanks so much for coming in. This is great. It's a wonderful experience.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Thank you, Bill.